Hey guys, so if this is true, this is gonna be great because so Xbox is planning a revival of the Banjo-Kazooie franchise, a developer has claimed. Now, of course, grain of salt, bag of salt, all ocean worth, whatever. But if Banjo, especially after Nuts and Bolts, that game was terrible. I mean, people might have liked it for what it was, but it had the name Banjo-Kazooie on it. And when we heard that a Banjo Kazooie after Banjo-Tooie, a main title, we're like, oh my god, it's gonna be Banjo 3. No, we got Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts. And it's like, oh yeah, you're in a car, you can build your own car. It's like, oh yeah, that's totally Banjo-Kazooie. So Banjo-Kazooie on the N64 was by far one of the coolest and one of the best platforming games on the console. And even to this day, it's probably one of the best. Right up there with Mario 64. The controls were great, the worlds were great, the characters were great. Um, you had Banjo, who was like very lovable. He's very kind and sweet, and kind of slow sometimes. But then you had Kazooie, and she was sassy. She was foul mouthed for the most part, as foul mouthed as the game could get. I mean, this was rare that it did create Conker, and Conker, if you played Conker's Bad Fur Day, you'll know how with rare how they can get. But she's very sarcastic, and it was just this nice pair of like sweet and salty, because that's what you had the sweet loving bear who was just trying to get his sister back, and you had Kazooie who was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make fun of everyone and everything. I'm the sassy bird, and um then you had Gruntilda, which I mean, she spoke in rhymes, and you had her sister, you had Bottles, you had Mumbo, who, each world you'd go and Mumbo would turn you into something if you had enough Mumbo tokens. Like one world, you could be turned into a termite, another world, you'd be turned into a bee. Mad Monster Mansion, you get turned into a fucking pumpkin. You can bounce around as a pumpkin, and it allows you to go into like the well and stuff like that. So it's really cool. And then Banjo-Tooie came out, which took Banjo-Kazooie, and then it just totally smashed what we thought it could be. The levels were more intricate. There were more characters. There were more, not power. Well, actually, power ups as well. You could turn Kazooie into a fucking dragon. I mean, not a literal like huge dragon. Her form would change. You could fucking shoot fire. Um, but the transformations were different. It was a longer game, and the zones or levels were definitely a lot harder. They were a lot bigger. I remember, what was it? Jolly Roger Lagoon, when you're fucking going underwater, and I think he turns you into like a submarine. You've got like little missiles you can shoot. That place was so fucking annoying. So fucking annoying. Um, but it was a fun game. I remember playing it. And when I finally got to the end and beat the game, I was like, oh my god, thank you. Because it took a while. It was a long game. It really wasn't. Like Banjo-Kazooie, I've done a playthrough of Banjo-Kazooie on the channel, but I haven't done Banjo-Tooie because I know how long the game is. Um, but to have a new Banjo-Kazooie game, and hopefully it'd be a traditional Banjo-Kazooie game, not nuts and bolts. No, we want a platformer like Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie. They had on handheld. You had like Gruntilda's Revenge and stuff like that for I think the Game Boy Advanced. So, but oddly enough, it's one of those franchises that was really popular, and then nothing. Nuts and Bolts was the last main game, and of course people are stupid, and this dude is like overrated crap. So I come up with please explain how a franchise that hasn't had any new main titles released since 2008 is overrated. Now, you could say, something you could say is overrated, like Mario or Kingdom Hearts, where there's so many main games, It's or Call of Duty. There's so many fucking games released, and it's all like the same. But Banjo-Kazooie, there's only a handful. There's really not a lot of games. Like I said, Nuts and Bolts was released back in 2008. So it's hardly a overrated game. Overrated would be like Ocarina of Time. How everyone says, oh, it's one of the greatest games of all time. It's overrated. Yeah, it's a great game, but is it the greatest of all time? No. People just think that because it's very nostalgic for them. Um, like I've said, Ocarina of Time is not my favorite game. Mine is like it's between Majora's Mask and Wind Waker, which I'm playing, by the way. Not right now, but still, if you're new, I'm going to be. I've done like what 2 videos so far, so you can always watch that if you're a Wind Waker fan. And then after that, hopefully, I'll be doing Twilight Princess. But yeah, that would be overrated. It's like Ocarina of Time. Saying, "Oh my God, it's such a great game. It's the best game of all time." No, it's not. It's not the greatest of all time. It's a really good game. But so saying Banjo-Kazooie is overrated. I mean, the last time we saw Banjo-Kazooie was in Super Smash Brothers. But that's not a Banjo-Kazooie game. That was Super Smash Brothers. Which after that should have been a big indication there might be Banjo-Kazooie coming soon. Because it seems like every time they add someone into into Super Smash Brothers, it's always because there was a game released beforehand or there's a game released afterwards. Sometimes maybe, I mean, like Duck Hunt. I mean, when was the last time a Duck Hunt game was released? But I mean, you had Simon Belmont and like, wasn't there a Castlevania game released not too long ago or something like that? You had Cloud and Sephiroth, the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Kingdom Hearts 3 and 4 announced, so, Sora's in there, and so it seems like every time they add a character, not too far after that, the game is released, or it was released before, so I was like, yeah, Banjo-Kazooie. Maybe there might be a new Banjo-Kazooie game coming out. This was, what, last year, I think? A year or 2 ago? But if it does happen, well, let's see. Would it be good if it was still set in, like Spiral Mountain? I mean, because we never got Banjo 3. We were supposed to. I mean, it was mentioned at the end of Banjo-Tooie. Gruntilda's like, I'll be back in Banjo 3, but then it never happened. So would we possibly be dealing with Gruntilda again? Would we be, Spiral Mountain and, going into her lair again? Or, I mean, now that there's this giant opening to like the Jinjo village and all that stuff over there, would we be able to explore that, re-explore everything? Or are those going to be blocked off now somehow, and we've got to find some kind of pathway in there that was hidden before, like King Jinjo? What if he has some kind of fucking secret passage that leads to a different area or something like that? I don't know. But gives us new powers, and like I said, the Banjo-Tooie, you could turn Kazooie into a dragon. It was so fucking cool. She was green, and she'd come out of the backpack. She'd fucking shoot fire. It was really cool. One of the most powerful things you could do. You also had a bunch of different eggs. You had the ice egg, you had the fire egg, you had grenade eggs. You had like these little wind-up ones that you could shoot them out, and then you could take control of this little tiny mechanized Regal. Just kind of walk and then explodes. Or Kazooie, she's shooting all those out of her ass or out of her mouth. But yeah, I would love to know what a new Banjo-Kazooie title would entail. Like, I mean, every time there's been a Banjo-Kazooie game, Gruntilda's been the villain. It's kind of like a mainstay for, titles like this. I mean, look at Mario. Who's usually the villain? Bowser. Look at Zelda. Who's usually the villain? Ganondorf. You look at Metroid. Who's usually the villain? You know, it's just um but I would hope that it would also Gruntilda has sisters that was in that they were in Banjo-Tooie as well. So, but actually didn't they get to I think they it's been so fucking long since I played Banjo-Tooie. I played it once when I was a kid, and then I think once maybe after that in 2000 uh 2006 or so. Pretty much when I started with emulation and all that. I played it again, but it's been so fucking long. So fucking long since I played that game. Um but if this is actually happening, that would be really cool. Um Kind of like Crash. How Crash was like on a hiatus for a while, no main titles, and then Crash is back and it's like, "Oh my god." What about Spyro? I know Spyro had the remake, like the remasters and everything, but Spyro hasn't had any real main title, like main games, has he? In a while. I think it was just the remasters. Uh, yeah, I don't think so. But there's a lot of titles. Um, some off the top of my head, Jersey Devil, really fun game back when that was out. Medieval, it's the game with the skeleton. He's like a medieval skeleton. You go around different levels. And it's really fun. It's a fucking fun game. Um, what other game would be really cool to get a remake of? Or not a remake, but just see a continuation. Um, I don't know. I guess that would be left for you guys. I mean, you guys are just as old as I am, and it could be a remake for anything. You know, any franchise that was on N64, PlayStation, Xbox, doesn't matter. Um, Hell, it could be Nintendo, Super Nintendo. Because there are some games that came out on Super Nintendo that were great, but they just never got an actual franchise made out of them. So, but hopefully this does happen, and hopefully it'll be amazing looking. If they were to do it in Unreal Engine, what are we up to? Unreal Engine 4 or 5? Perfection. Perfection. If they're to keep kind of like what they look like, actually, let me bring them up for a sec. If they kept them like this, very traditional, when Nuts and Bolts came out, they changed the look of them so much. Like, actually, hang on. I should have brought that up too. Hang on. So this is what they look like in Nuts and Bolts. They're fucking hideous. They need to stick with the traditional bear and bird. The bear and bird we know and love. Not this fucking crap that they tried to just. This is not Banjo-Kazooie. This is like the fucking Wario and Waluigi version. You've got Mario and Luigi, and then you've got Wario and Waluigi. So this is what they basically were. It's like these counterparts that don't really resemble. They're supposed to resemble, but I mean, charming, not charming, memorable, not memorable. Jeez, like I don't understand why they went with that design. So if they're to keep our favorite bear and bird like this, that'd be great. Hell, maybe make a game with some kind of reference to, um, Project Dream with Edison and the pirates. You know, that would be really cool. Maybe take place on that same area or something like that. Maybe Banjo-Kazooie go on a trip. I mean, going on trips is not unheard of. I mean, Super Mario Sunshine, Mario and Peach take a trip to Isle Delfino. So it could work, but I would love to see them like this. Very traditional looking, just upgraded to fit the style, or rather the update in technology. This can just burn in fucking hell. This, no, I never want to see this version again. But yeah, Banjo-Kazooie possibly getting another game, and hopefully it's another game, not just some fucking reboot of like, oh yeah, we're gonna remake the Game Boy Advance title. No, we want a new game. Anyways, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of Banjo-Kazooie? And like I said, what would be a game franchise that you haven't seen in a while that you would love to see a reboot of, or not reboot, but a revival of? Let me know. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.